Chapter 15-14. In the vast sea of fire, magma surged. A huge shadow enveloped the entire sea of fire. Then, a dazzling light flashed above the sea of fire. As soon as the brilliant light appeared, Yiqing Luo felt that her vision was attracted by that brilliance. He couldn't shift his gaze away no matter what. Then, it was a huge, red bird. No, that's not a giant bird. That was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. The phoenix feathers on her body were overflowing with light, as if they were plated with a layer of dazzling light. Scarlet red, like flames. However, it was even more eye-catching than the flames. From head to toe, there was a piercingly cold aura. Flight of the phoenix pair. Cry to the 9 heavens. Sure enough, it was it. All this while, the vermilion bird had been calling out to Chi-Chi. Ever since Chi-Chi stepped into the South Tide continent, she had sensed this summoning power. Yiqing Luo made a guess. It was very likely that it was one of the 4 great divine beasts. The reason for that was because there was an extremely strong sense of summoning between sacred beasts. The other magical beasts didn't sense it at all. Only Chi-Chi could feel it. Apart from the 4 sacred beasts, there was nothing else. Clang, clang, the vermilion bird let loose another piercing cry. It flew down from the sky and tangled with Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi jumped around excitedly. A vermilion bird and a white tiger, loving each other. South Tide Continent's imperial tutor prophesied that a divine object would descend upon the world in the blazing flame lair. What he was referring to was this vermilion bird. Dmo Xian looked at that noble and elegant sacred beast as a trace of undecipherable profound meaning surfaced in his eyes. The vermilion bird. Why is it here? Yiqing Luo's attention was focused on the vermilion bird and didn't notice Dmo Xian's strange behavior. I'm afraid, it's also because of... Dmo Xian took a deep look at Yiqing Luo, his words stopped at his lips. For what? Yiqing Luo curiously raised her head and looked into that bottomless abyss eyes. Her heart strangely tightened. Dmo Xian's expression was absolutely not happy. On the contrary, there was an extremely subtle trace of anxiety and uneasiness. What is he worrying about? Was he hiding something? Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to ponder, that smear of emotion in Dmo Xian's eyes had already disappeared. His thin lips curved up, and his slender fingers gently stroked her face. He lowered his voice and said in a hoarse voice, "For the sake of the white tiger, I found this place." Chi-Chi. Yiqing Luo frowned. Why did she feel that? Dmo Xian was deliberately hiding something? Did the vermilion bird descend to the South Tide continent for Chi-Chi? The 4 great divine beasts were the strongest divine beasts of the ancient era. Dmo Xian rubbed her head as he explained, "For sacred beasts have been living together since young and have already been together for over 10,000 years. If it wasn't for an accident 10,000 years ago, the 4 divine beasts wouldn't have been separated. It would appear that those 4 divine beasts are searching for one another." Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Then, Shaoqun shifted his gaze to the sea of fire, where the 2 holy beasts were still entangled and crying at each other. The 4 beasts searched for one another. In other words, apart from the vermilion bird holy beast, even the azure dragon and black tortoise would come looking for him. Chapter 15-15. Indeed. If vermilion bird was here for Chi-Chi, it would definitely not be separated from Chi-Chi. And she was Chi-Chi's master. Chi-Chi would definitely follow her. If vermilion bird didn't want to be separated from Chi-Chi, it would definitely stay by her side. This was equivalent to forming a contract with vermilion bird. Just at this moment, Chi-Chi, who was in the sea of fire, seemed to recall that its master was still standing beside the sea of fire. It let out a low howl and immediately jumped out of the sea of fire and returned to Yiqing Luo's side. "Master, master, it's really it. It's really vermilion bird." Chi-Chi's voice was extremely crisp. Looking at Chi-Chi's joyful eyes, Yiqing Luo's face revealed a smile as she raised her hand and gently stroked Chi-Chi's head, congratulations, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's head rubbed against her palm. Clang clang. Vermilion birds suddenly flew over and that arrogant head slowly moved closer to Yi-Ching Luo. Chi-Chi raised its head and let out a few excited howls. It seemed to be communicating with Vermilion bird. Yi-Ching Luo could clearly feel it. Vermilion bird's red eyes swept past her faintly. That gaze. It really wasn't friendly. Yi-Ching Luo was a little surprised. She hadn't done anything to Vermilion bird, right? It seemed to be the first time she met Vermilion bird. Why did it feel like Vermilion bird didn't seem to like her? Howl howl. Chi-Chi's voice became louder as it used its head to knock Vermilion bird's body, as if it was saying something angrily. Vermilion bird let out a low cry and immediately went silent. A bird and a tiger looked at each other. The atmosphere seemed a little inexplicably strange. Cough cough. Yi-Ching Luo coughed lightly and interrupted the two sacred beasts who were originally intimate but now created a cold atmosphere. Chi-Chi, after all, we are old friends who haven't seen each other for a long time, don't quarrel. Chi-Chi is not quarreling with it. Chi-Chi snorted. The huge tiger body immediately transformed into a palm-sized cat and jumped onto Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi is telling it that you are Chi-Chi's master. Yi-Ching Luo stroked its fur and raised her head to smile at Vermilion bird. Vermilion bird arrogantly turned her head away. It spread its flame-like wings and let out a clear cry. The surrounding flames flared up even more violently in that instant. Chi-Chi's tail suddenly stood up straight. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on her slender waist. Yi-Ching Luo's smile froze. Her intuition was right. This Vermilion bird really didn't like her. He seemed to have something to say to her. Hey, ugly woman. A clear voice rang out. It was extremely clear in the silence. Yi-Ching Luo's gaze was fixed on the Vermilion bird. Was it talking just now? It can actually speak human language. This sacred beast is one of the 4 ancient sacred beasts. Naturally, I can speak the human language. Vermilion bird proudly snorted. You don't even know this kind of common sense. Why did Little White choose you as his master? Question. How does it feel to be despised by a bird? A. Vermilion bird, this is Chi-Chi's master. If you dare to offend Chi-Chi's master again, Chi-Chi will ignore you. Chi-Chi glared at Vermilion bird. Vermilion bird turned its head in displeasure and stared at Yi-Ching Luo with its red eyes for a long time. That eyes were as red as fresh blood. Red without any impurities. With just a glance, one would feel as if they had fallen into a pool of blood. Yi-Ching Luo frowned slightly and reached out to stroke Chi-Chi's head, indicating it not to be agitated. Chapter 15-16. Vermilion bird turned its head and squinted its scarlet eyes. It looked at Yi-Ching Luo with a questioning gaze. After a while, a disdainful snort came out of its nose. Vermilion bird, you. Chi-Chi was about to jump down from Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder to settle scores with Vermilion bird. Its tiny body was hugged by Yi-Ching Luo's arms. Yi-Ching Luo patted its head gently and whispered, forget it, don't affect your relationship because of me. Her motive for coming here. Indeed, she wanted to subdue the sacred beast. But she didn't expect. Chi-Chi and Vermilion bird were close friends since they were young. Since they were Chi-Chi's close friends, her original plan of coercion and enticement couldn't be carried out. Chi-Chi's companions were also people she should treat well. Vermilion bird didn't like her. Then she shouldn't force it. Yi-Ching Luo threw Chi-Chi to Vermilion bird. The smile on her lips was still gentle. Chi-Chi, you and Vermilion bird can catch up here. I will go look for Ah Zhan with Ah Xian. Chi-Chi let out a cry of guilt. Chi-Chi naturally understood its master's character. It also understood that its master had given up the plan to contract Vermilion bird. To be honest, Chi-Chi also hoped that Vermilion bird could contract with its master. In this way, it could be with its master and not be separated from Vermilion bird. But obviously, Vermilion Bird didn't have a good impression of its master. However, it was clear that the Vermilion Bird did not have a good impression of its master. It couldn't even count how long it had been. It couldn't even count how long it had been. So long that they couldn't even remember what their former master looked like. Vermilion Bird's hatred towards its master was probably because it felt that it had betrayed its former master. Sensing Chi-Chi's depressed mood, Yi-Ching Luo gave it a smile. Then she meditated in her heart, Chi-Chi, I'm not angry, don't think too much. Master. Chi-Chi called out in a low voice. Yi-Ching Luo looked up at Vermilion Bird, Vermilion Bird, my friend here is seriously injured, let's leave him here temporarily, okay? Master, don't worry. Chi-Chi will guard him well. Chi-Chi answered first and then gave Vermilion Bird a fierce stare. Vermilion Bird didn't say a word, which was a silent agreement. Looking at the tsundere of Vermilion Bird, Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but laugh. After arranging a place for Zhu Wuxin, he fed him some medicinal pills to treat internal injuries. Yi-Ching Luo and Dmo Xian then held hands as they left the heart vein. With Chi-Chi around, Yi-Ching Luo wasn't worried that Vermilion Bird would hurt Zhu Wuxian. Moreover, she could feel it. Although Vermilion Bird looked very arrogant on the surface, in reality, he was just a person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Otherwise, with Chi-Chi's silly and adorable personality, how could she be so close to the Vermilion Bird? Birds of a feather flocked together. Chi-Chi's best friend was definitely not some cold-hearted beast. Not far away from the heart vein, Dmo Xian glanced sideways at the silent Yi-Ching Luo as he laughed lightly, no regrets? Huh? Yi-Ching Luo was stunned for a moment before she reacted and shook her head, no. Dmo Xian raised his brows, that's one of the 4 great sacred beasts, the Vermilion Bird sacred beast. If you were to sign a contract with it, it would be of great help to you. I know. Yi-Ching Luo nodded her head as her hands circled around his arm, leaning her head on his arm, but, as compared to help, I'm more concerned about Chi-Chi's feelings. So what if she used all kinds of means to make Vermilion Bird sign a contract with her? If because of this, it caused Chi-Chi and Vermilion Bird's relationship to become estranged. Chapter 15-17. You. Dmo Xian had a, I've long guessed it, expression as he shook his head with a doting smile. Ah Xian, this place is so big and the roads are so complicated, how are we going to find Xiao Yi and the rest? Yi-Ching Luo asked worriedly. Although they didn't sense any danger in the base of the blazing cavern. But Yi-Ching Luo had an ominous feeling. They didn't meet with any danger, probably because of Chi-Chi. Or maybe it was the calm before the storm. Dmo Xian said, this is the underground of the blazing cavern and the area is about the same size. Although this place looks complicated and there are many roads, but it is connected in all directions. Just walk straight ahead and you should be able to meet them. Yi-Ching Luo nodded. This was the only way now. She was glad that she still had the mercenary group badge which could be used to sense the presence of Yan Xiao Yi and the rest. As long as the range was within 100 meters, they would be able to get in touch. But their comfortable time didn't last long. Just as the two of them were moving forward based on their intuition, suddenly, a deafening roar came from all directions. Following that, they saw 2 huge wild beasts. Their entire bodies were fiery red and their bodies were giving off sparks as they strode towards the two of them. Roar, 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 the 2 wild beasts pounded on their chests as sparks flew. Dmo Xian protected Yi-Ching Luo behind him as his brows creased slightly as he waved his purple robe. A burst of profound chi surged towards the sky with an imposing manner as it struck the 2 wild beasts. Those 2 wild beasts hadn't even gotten close when they instantly turned into tiny sparks under this burst of profound chi as they fell onto the ground, merging into one with the flaming path. Instant kill. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes shone as her little hand grabbed onto Dmo Xian's arm. Ah Xian, can you reveal how high your profound grade is? Previously when Dmo Xian made a move against Imperial Palace's granny, Yiqing Luo already felt that Dmo Xian was unfathomable. Imperial Palace's granny's profound grade was at least Sky Mystic Overlord or even higher. But Dmo Xian could easily suppress the Imperial Palace's old granny to the point that she had no way to resist. It was enough to tell that Dmo Xian's profound grade was above Imperial Palace's granny. Then, how powerful was Dmo Xian exactly? Dmo Xian glanced sideways as a trace of teasing smile flashed past his eyes. Divulging a little isn't impossible, but what is Lil Luo prepared to use in exchange for this bit of divulging? That deliberately lowered and flirtatious voice. There was a hint of ambiguity in that teasing gaze. How could Yiqing Luo not understand Dmo Xian's unspoken meaning? Her cheeks were slightly flushed as she glared at Dmo Xian in annoyance, revealing the profound grade. You also want to discuss conditions with me, can't we be happy together? Dmo Xian raised his eyebrows. I'm the first palace of Nirvana realm, the Imperial Palace Lord Dmo Xian. My profound grade is naturally confidential. If you want to know, how can I tell you if you don't show some sincerity? Yiqing Luo was exasperated. What he said made so much sense that she couldn't refute him. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as she stared at Dmo Xian resentfully. Following that, she tiptoed and hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck. She pressed her pink lips onto Dmo Xian's thin lips. She did it deliberately. The moment her lips touched Dmo Xian's thin lips, she opened her mouth and bit on his lips fiercely. Humph humph. She winked at Dmo Xian provocatively. Following that, she moved her lips away. But Dmo Xian didn't give her this chance. Just at the moment when Yiqing Luo retreated. Chapter 15-18. Dmo Xian's kiss was extremely overbearing. Their breaths entwined, lips and teeth intertwined. Just a moment later, Yiqing Luo's entire body turned soft as she leaned softly into Dmo Xian's arms. His lips caressed her lips. His tongue stirred a pool of spring water. Those warm and soft lips were intoxicating. Yiqing Luo's resentment towards Dmo Xian for taking advantage of the situation had turned into anger from embarrassment, and at this moment, it completely vanished. This kiss almost made Yiqing Luo suffocated before Dmo Xian released her. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a daze. Ah Xian. Don't be like this. Originally, he just wanted to take the opportunity to bite him. He didn't expect to be swallowed by him instead. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with mirth, as he licked his rosy lips as though he hadn't had enough of it, as he laughed in a low voice. What about me? You. Yiqing Luo's face turned red as she gritted her teeth and shut her mouth. When it came to acting like a hooligan, she was absolutely not Dmo Xian's opponent. She simply couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore. She snorted, hurry up and tell me, what's your profound rank now? Dmo Xian's brows raised slightly as he slowly bent down. His thin lips gently grazed her earlobe. It caused Yiqing Luo's delicate body to tremble slightly. Warm air sprayed out. Yiqing Luo couldn't bear it any longer. Are you going to say it or not? Was it really okay to flirt with him at the slightest disagreement? Her heart wouldn't be able to take it sooner or later. Lil Luo, my profound grade. His hoarse voice was extremely husky. That magnetic teasing made Yiqing Luo's heart had a kind of numbing feeling. Yiqing Luo felt he might have been poisoned by a poison called Dmo Xian. And she could not detoxify it. But this poison was instantly dispelled. Because a certain man whispered in her ear, taller than you. Then, he laughed and swaggered off. Yiqing Luo stood rooted to the ground with a dumbfounded look. His profound rank was higher than hers. This was Dmo Xian's answer. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched a few times. Damn it. Dizun's tricks were too complicated. She strongly requested to get rid of Dizun. Wasn't it obvious? Could her profound grade surpass Dmo Xian? Damn Dmo Xian, how dare he tease her? Do you still want to live happily? Yi Qing Luo expressed that she would make Dmo Xian kneel at the door every day and not allow him to get on the bed. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Yi Qing Luo was preparing to activate her cold force, suddenly the entire space reverberated with that horrifying howl of a wild beast. Then, on the walls of fire that covered the entire sky, there were many people. One by one, burning wild beasts emerged from the ground. Dmo Xian, who was walking in front, immediately returned to Yi Qing Luo's side as he stretched out his hand to encircle her in his embrace. Ah, Xian, what is this? Yi Qing Luo stared at the surroundings. There were at least 10 wild beasts, approaching them step by step. Her brows furrowed into a frown. This is a flame beast. Dmo Xian's expression was calm as he looked at the wild beasts surrounding them. As he explained, these are the guardian spiritual beasts of the blazing flame nest. They kill those intruders who trespass into the base of the blazing flame nest. As he spoke, the flaming beast was already charging towards him. A flaming sword emerged from the flaming beast's body. Yi Qing Luo felt a huge breath coming towards her. Dmo Xian hugged her even tighter as he waved his sleeves. A horrifying profound light was released from his body. But in a flash, those few flaming beasts which had rushed towards them were defeated and turned into ashes. Chapter 15:19. The flame beasts are formed from the flames at the base of the flame layer. As long as the flames are not extinguished, the flame beasts will continue to spawn. Dmo Xian's gaze was grave as he looked at those flame beasts pouncing over. Let's rush over first before we talk. As long as the fire is not extinguished, it will continue to grow. In other words, if the flames in the foundation were not extinguished, would the flaming beasts continue to emerge and attack them? If this went on, no matter how strong Dmo Xian was, the profound energy of the profound jade heart would eventually be exhausted. Along the way, we haven't met any flame beasts. Why did these flame beasts suddenly appear? Yi Qing Luo looked at Dmo Xian in puzzlement. Dmo Xian shook his head slowly. His expression was calm. However, his peach blossom eyes were filled with seriousness. The flame beast's sudden attack was indeed a little sudden. Ah, Xian, let's go first. There are more and more flame beasts. Yi Qing Luo also felt strange. But now was not the time to think about other things. The surrounding flaming beasts came one after another. There were more than 20 of them. If they didn't leave now, even if the flaming beasts didn't attack them, they would be burned to death by the flames on their bodies. Yi Qing Luo flipped her palm and the glower flame fan appeared on her fingertips. Dmo Xian took a look at her but did not stop her actions. Follow me closely. Yi Qing Luo gave him a smile. In times of danger, she could not always rely on Dmo Xian. She had said it before, she didn't want to hide behind Dmo Xian. What she wanted was to be on par with Dmo Xian. The two of them looked at each other. At the same time, his figure swayed. He charged into the flaming beasts. The glower flame fan in Yi Qing Luo's hand opened up, the profound chi condensed, turned into a bewitching red glow, rolled up a wind blade, and directly chopped towards the flame beast. The flame beast's skills were all related to fire. Furthermore, it was extremely cumbersome. When Yi Qing Luo's wind blades landed on the flame beast's body, that flame beast didn't have any intention to evade as it continued to move forward. It raised its arm high and smashed it down towards Yi Qing Luo's head. As he waved his arm, the flames on the flaming beast's arm became like a flaming sword. Roar! The flaming beast's enormous body moved on the ground, causing the earth to shake. The flaming beast was about to reach his face. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards, her charming eyes were dyed with an enchanting red glow under the illumination of the flame. It further complemented her peerlessly beautiful face, which was charming and enchanting. She spun the devouring flame fan in her palm, and soon after, the devouring flame fan transformed into a red tornado that flew towards the flaming beast. The devouring flame fan was like a spiral. As it spun, a dazzling light flowed through it. The red light was even more dazzling under the light of the flames. The glowing flame fan brushed past the flaming beast's body. Following that, it spun in mid-air and returned back to Yiqing Luo's hand. Following that, Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers nimbly flicked. A few silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan. That flaming beast which was still attacking Yiqing Luo, suddenly split into pieces at this instance. Wherever the silver threads passed, a row of flaming beasts would be torn to pieces. Seeing Yiqing Luo fighting so excitedly, Dmo Xian did not attack again. Just following behind her, staring at Yiqing Luo's actions, constantly paying attention to whether she would get hurt. The two of them, one at the front and one at the back, charged forward. Very soon, they met Long Yunzhan and the rest who were also killing the flaming beasts. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were by the side. Sister. Kitty Li was the first to smell Yiqing Luo's scent, as she joyfully struggled out from Zhou Mo's arms. Chapter 15-20. Long Yunzhan's action of killing the flame beast paused as he turned his head over. This one look gave the flame beast an opportunity. Its flaming claws fiercely struck towards Long Yunzhan's head. Ah, Zhan, be careful. Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan immediately released a hurricane. But the flame beast's attack had already landed. Just at this moment, class monitor. A panicked cry was heard. Following that, a figure flew past, directly knocking Long Yunzhan away. The flame beast's claw landed on that figure's back. Coincidentally, Yiqing Luo's hurricane landed on the flame beast. The flaming beast let out a howl, and suddenly turned into flames, disappearing without a trace. Ziqing. Yiqing Luo released Dmo Xian's arm, as she jogged towards Tong Ziqing's direction. Tong Ziqing laid on the ground. The academy uniform had been burnt, revealing the skin on her back. The originally fair skin was now a patch of burn marks. Yiqing Luo's hand had just touched Tong Ziqing, when she heard Tong Ziqing moaning in pain. Sister Ziqing. Kitty Li also jogged over, looking at the wound on Tong Ziqing's back. Her eyes were filled with heartache tears. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She took a look at the surrounding, which were still pouncing over, as she spoke in a low voice. Let me give you a simple treatment first. After we leave this place, I'll bandage it properly. Long Yunzhan was pushed to one side, as his footsteps staggered a little, as he stabilized himself. Following that, his vision looked towards Tong Ziqing, whose face was filled with pain, as she laid on the ground. His azure blue eyes flickered slightly. It was Tong Ziqing, who rushed up without hesitation, helping him to block the flame beast's attack. Such a beautiful lady. But now, it was a patch of charred black. The person who injured Tong Ziqing was him. Because of his absent-mindedness, gave the flame beast an opportunity. Which led to Tong Ziqing helping him to block the attack and getting injured. What are you still in a daze for? Yan Xiaoyi looked at Long Yunzhan, who was staring at Tong Ziqing in a daze, as Qiao Jin's face surfaced in her mind. Tong Ziqing admired Long Yunzhan. This was a secret which the entire class knew. But Long Yunzhan never gave Tong Ziqing any sort of response. Seeing that Tong Ziqing was willing to sacrifice her own life for Long Yunzhan, Gu Lingji's heart skipped a beat. Strangely, Yan Xiaoyi thought of herself and Qiao Jin. She admired Qiao Jin. But Qiao Jin didn't give her any response. He even pushed her towards Shi Shanglan. An indescribable anger rose from the bottom of his heart. Yan Xiaoyi also didn't have a good expression towards Long Yunzhan. It's all because you were distracted that caused Ziqing to get injured because of you. Didn't you hear what Qing Luo said? Let's kill these flaming beasts first and leave this place. Long Yunzhan snapped out of his daze. His azure eyes blinked. Her long eyelashes were trembling slightly. He looked at Tong Ziqing's pained expression and slowly tightened his grip on the long sword in his hand. He then flew into the midst of the flaming beasts. Dmo Xian's appearance, coupled with Gui Wu and Zhou Mo's actions, In just a short moment, all the flame beasts in the surroundings had been cleaned up. He looked at the blazing flames around him. Yiqing Luo was worried that those flame beasts would continue to spawn. After helping Tong Ziqing to take care of her burns, Yiqing Luo suggested to seek refuge at Vermilion Bird's side. Vermilion Bird was born at the heart meridian of the Foundation Land. And it had the might of a sacred beast. These flame beasts shouldn't dare to barge in. After getting everyone's approval, Yiqing Luo bent down and was about to help Tong Ziqing up. Chapter 1521. Long Yunzhan bent down and said calmly, "Let me do it." Following that, he carefully avoided the wound on Tong Ziqing's back and circled her in his arms. A slight movement could also touch Tong Ziqing's skin. Tong Ziqing, who had long fallen into a coma, groaned in pain. Long Yunzhan's body stiffened. Staring at Tong Ziqing's tightly knitted brows, the expression on his face turned gloomy. Looking at Long Yunzhan's expression, Yiqing Luo quietly retreated back to Dmo Xian's side. The usually cold Long Yunzhan was now willing to hug Tong Ziqing. To the both of them, this should be considered as a progress. It looked like Tong Ziqing blocking for Long Yunzhan wasn't as bad as she imagined. Dmo Xian rubbed her little head and said softly, "Stop looking, let's go, the flame beasts will be born again." The two of them led the way. The group of people followed behind. Behind them was extremely lively and they could hear Kitty Li's cries from time to time. Yiqing Luo wanted to call Kitty Li over to her side but was stopped by Dmo Xian. Seeing Long Yunzhan hugging Tong Ziqing in his arms, Kitty Li was preparing to stick to Yiqing Luo. But before she could walk over, her body felt light. She fell into a warm and firm embrace again. "Little wild cat, those who are injured should stay here obediently, don't run around recklessly." The man's hoarse voice was beside her ear, extremely seductive. Kitty Li's cheeks blushed slightly as she shrunk her sensitive neck unnaturally and struggled, "Frivolous man. Kitty Li wants to follow sister, not run around recklessly. Let go of Kitty. Little wild cat is not obedient, be careful that student Yiqing Luo will hate you." Zhou Mo laughed softly as he hugged her even tighter. The petite figure in his arms stiffened as her round eyes widened. "Sister won't hate Kitty." Zhou Mo's almond-shaped eyes squinted as he smiled like a fox. "That overlord brother-in-law of yours usually doesn't meet up with student Yiqing Luo. You went over to pester student Yiqing Luo and disturbed their lovey-dovey love, so you're not an obedient kitty." Kitty Li's struggling movements gradually stopped. She blinked her eyes. Her gaze swept around. His elder sister and Di Zun's brother-in-law were walking at the very front. Their bodies were tightly pressed together, and they seemed to be whispering something. From the looks of it, she was indeed very infatuated. There was no room for anyone else. Then, he looked at Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing. Although it was quiet, Tong Ziqing was unconscious and Long Yunzhan's face was cold. There was no room for anyone else. She pursed her lips and furrowed her brows in distress. Zhou Mo saw that her expression had loosened. He leaned close to her ear and breathed a warm breath. "So, little wild cat, stay in my arms and be a good baby." Why did this sentence sound so strange? Why do I feel like I'm being treated as a pet? Kitty Li's mind was in chaos because of Zhou Mo. She stopped struggling and obediently nestled in Zhou Mo's arms. Gue Wu, who was walking behind them, helplessly sighed and shook his head. The beast men were indeed naive. With just a few words from Zhou Mo, he obediently obeyed. However, this was the first time he had seen Zhou Mo so concerned about a woman. On their way, they met several batches of flame beasts. After killing their way through, they finally reached the heart vein zone. Just as Yiqing Luo had guessed. They had just entered the Sea of Fire. The flame beasts that were chasing relentlessly stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1522. Ugly woman, what infuriating things did you do outside again, that those flame beasts had chased all the way to this sacred beast's territory? A shrill voice filled with mockery could be heard. Everyone's vision immediately turned towards the direction of the voice. They saw a sky full of flames. A noble and elegant vermilion bird and a white tiger were suspended above the sea of flames. Instructor Luo and Instructor Li were dumbstruck as they stared at the sea of flames, as their breathing hastened. This is. Gue Wu narrowed his sinister eyes. Vermilion bird? Vermilion bird is actually here? Zhou Mo's brows rose leisurely, as he shot a glance at Yi Qing Luo with interest. Tisk. So to say, the divine object descending from the flame lair is referring to vermilion bird? Hearing Gue Wu and Zhou Mo admit that this was one of the 4 sacred beasts, vermilion bird sacred beast. The 2 instructors' eyes were all dazed. What day was it today? Not only did they meet the mysterious overlord, they also met the mysterious death god castle lord. Then they met the white tiger sacred beast, and now they even met vermilion bird. Was this a test of their heart's endurance? Yi Qing Luo didn't reply vermilion bird's words. Instead she turned her gaze towards Long Yunzhan. Ah Zhan, put Zi Qing here, I'll bandage her wound again. Long Yunzhan put down Tong Zi Qing. Yi Qing Luo called Qi Qi over, using its huge body to block the other's vision. She then used the dagger to cut open Tong Zi Qing's clothes. The flame beast's attack was extremely vicious. This burn, Tong Zi Qing's back was almost scalded. Even if it was healed in the end, it would probably leave behind a scalded scar. In this continent where men were superior to women, if a lady had a scar, it would be a problem for her to get married in future. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly. After Tong Zi Qing's wound was healed, she had to flip through the 100 refinement pills to see if there was any prescription for removing scars. Qi Qi was called away. Vermilion bird felt that it was neglected. Especially when those foolish humans were using a judgmental gaze to stare at it. The vermilion bird immediately felt that its dignity as a sacred beast had been insulted. A pair of scarlet-red beast eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo with extreme displeasure. Ugly woman, how dare you ignore this sacred beast's words? Do you believe that this sacred beast will chase you out to feed those flame beasts right now? It flapped its wings and circled above the sea of fire. The phoenix feathers that overflowed with colorful light flowed with a dazzling brilliance. Still, no one responded to it despite its clamor. Hey, ugly girl! The vermilion bird opened its mouth in displeasure and was about to fly into a rage. However, he was stopped by a pair of extremely cold eyes. Yi Qing Luo raised her charming eyes. Her eyes were suffused with an extremely cold glint as she stared coldly at vermilion bird. Her face was expressionless, without the gentleness and smile from before. Shut up. You! The vermilion bird flapped its wings, its crimson eyes burning with rage. How dare you disrespect this holy beast? I'm being polite to you because you and Mu Qiqi are old friends. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned cold as she berated sternly, with your little temper, it doesn't matter how you treat me, but now, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Perhaps it was Yi Qing Luo's aura which made the vermilion bird inexplicably palpitate. The vermilion bird opened its sharp mouth but in the end, it didn't say a word. It arrogantly turned its head away as its entire body submerged into the sea of fire, disappearing without a trace. The heart arteries regained its original tranquility. Chapter 1523. By the time Yi Qing Luo finished applying medicine for Tong Zi Qing and changed into a new set of uniform, it was already 1 hour later. Yi Qing Luo wiped the sweat off her forehead. Just as she stood up, a hand touched her forehead. The handkerchief with the scent of sandalwood gently covered her forehead. She looked up and happened to see a pair of slender fingers with distinct joints. Under the raging flames, it was coated with a layer of lustrous multicolored light. That finger pinched a handkerchief and wiped the sweat on Yi Qing Luo's forehead. You've worked hard. Yi Qing Luo shook her head and her soft body leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. A Xian, her body might leave a scar. Dmo Xian's gaze swept past Tong Zi Qing who was sprawled on the ground as he sighed softly. Leaving a scar was extremely serious for a woman. The atmosphere inexplicably became somewhat heavy. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's icy cold voice was heard. Qing Luo, you said, the scars on Zi Qing's body cannot be removed? Very difficult. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. The flame beast's flames are different from ordinary blazing flames. If it wasn't for the fact that Zi Qing knew how to use her profound qi to protect herself when she blocked that move, otherwise, she would have long been burnt into ashes by that ball of blazing flames. To be honest, the fact that Tong Ziqing was still alive after that attack was unbelievable. It was already a miracle. The medicinal pills and scar-removing ointment that she had on her now were not of much use to Tong Ziqing. Long Yunzhan fell silent. He looked in the direction of Tong Ziqing, his azure blue eyes flashing with a trace of complicated emotions. I'll think of something when I get back. Yi Qing Luo continued, if you feel remorseful. Just treat her gently during this period of time when she's recuperating, that's enough. Tong Ziqing had never hoped to obtain Long Yunzhan's love. As for Long Yunzhan, he was a human dragon. The things he carried on his back were too much. If the two of them wanted to be together, there would be many obstacles. The only thing she could do was, even when Tong Ziqing was still in love with Long Yunzhan, create possible opportunities for them. In the end, it was up to them to decide what path they would take. Long Yunzhan looked at Tong Ziqing's direction without blinking and did not reply. Yi Qing Luo didn't say anything else. She rested for a moment before walking to the entrance of the heart vein. The flaming beasts outside the entrance had already disappeared. But Yi Qing Luo knew. Once they stepped out of the entrance, he would definitely be surrounded by the flaming beasts. Everyone had been found. She had also seen the vermilion bird that had summoned Chi-Chi. Right now, it was time to think of a way to leave this place. Chi-Chi. Yi Qing Luo patted Chi-Chi's head. Did vermilion bird say how we should leave this place? Chi-Chi shook her head. The vermilion bird's personality. Master has seen it. It can't wait for Chi-Chi to stay here with it. How would it be willing to tell Chi-Chi the way to leave this place? In other words, it knows how to leave this place? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Chi-Chi paused for a moment before replying, I think so. Yi Qing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Since it knows the way to leave, then it's easy. Go, summon the vermilion bird. Chi-Chi looked at her master with a crafty look in her eyes. His hair stood on end. Cough cough, every time his master revealed such an expression. It indicated that someone was going to be unlucky. This time the unlucky one wasn't a person, but a beast. Vermilion bird's personality indeed needed to be tamed. Chi-Chi moved its tiger claws as it walked to the side of the sea of fire. Chapter 1524. Chi-Chi let out a tiger's roar and the entire sea of fire rippled with magma. The sparks flew all over the sky. However, there was no movement in the sea of fire. Vermilion bird didn't come up. Chi-Chi turned its head and looked at Yi Qing Luo. Seeing Yi Qing Luo standing there with her arms crossed calmly, it looked towards the direction of the sea of fire and let out another roar. The magma tumbled even more violently. The majesty of the sacred beast caused the entire heart vein to shake. Awoo! Chi-Chi seemed to be urging Vermilion Bird to come out as the tiger's roar sounded slightly hurried. Only, Vermilion Bird who was buried in the sea of fire didn't give any response. Chi-Chi looked at its master helplessly. Master Vermilion Bird is the most stingy. Earlier master's words made it unhappy, so it intentionally hid. A sacred beast also knew how to throw a tantrum. Yi Qing Luo looked at the sea of fire and waved her hand to let Chi-Chi come back. Yi Qing Luo had long guessed that Vermilion Bird would not cooperate, so she wasn't surprised. Chi-Chi returned to Tong Ziqing's side and squatted on the ground as a pair of tiger eyes rolled around. Yi Qing Luo walked to the place where Chi-Chi was standing earlier. Narrowing her eyes, she swept her gaze across the boundless sea of fire. Her fingers moved. A raging flame feather fan appeared on her fingertips. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as her profound qi condensed. The glower flame fan opened up and swept up several hurricanes. In a split second, the entire sea of fire raged. Several hurricanes swept up the sea of fire. As the hurricanes rotated more and more violently, that flame also followed the hurricanes and swept up. In just a short while, the heart meridian was completely engulfed by tornadoes one after another. The sea of fire rolled and the hurricanes raged. The ground gradually cracked open. Like a dense spider web, it spread out. Guo Wu and the others retreated a few steps back, before forming a barrier, blocking the sparks that filled the sky. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue as he laughed heartily. Student Yiqing Luo's way of doing things is indeed eye-opening. Only she can think of such a method, and only she dares to do it. That's the vermilion bird's sacred beast. What she did, if she angered the vermilion bird's sacred beast. Instructor Li looked at Yiqing Luo's ferocious actions and his heart was beating extremely quickly. She's trying to provoke the vermilion bird. Guo Wu narrowed his eyes, as he stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. The corners of his lips actually revealed an extremely shallow smile. Just then, the sky was filled with hurricanes, tornadoes, and fiery winds. A furious and clear cry resounded through the 9 heavens. The sharp and clear cry was frightening. Soon after, a red shadow flapped its wings and flew out of the sea of fire. Surrounded by flames, the phoenix feathers overflowing with light and vibrant colors were exquisite beyond compare. Ugly woman. Vermilion bird's angry voice rang out, its scarlet-red eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her lips curled into a cold smile. Why, you're willing to come out? Don't you want to continue being a coward? The flames in vermilion bird's eyes leaped for a moment. A woo. Chi gave a low cry, warning vermilion bird. Clang clang, just as Chi's low cry sounded. Vermilion bird flapped its wings and flew. With a swoosh, it turned into a bewitching red glow. It flew straight towards Yiqing Luo's face. Clang clang, clang 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 clang, the clear cry was extremely sharp. That imposing manner that flew over was like a continuous sea of fire, gushing over. A woo woo. Chi's warning cry reverberated in their ears, accompanied by Yan Xiao Yi and the others' panicked cries. Chapter 1525. Bam! A loud sound of collision was heard. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that vermilion bird's huge body had crashed onto her. But she didn't feel the intense pain that she had imagined. On the contrary, an indescribable scorching feeling was burning her body. That scorching feeling was like balls of blazing fire, enveloping her entirely. Numerous airflow was released from the bottom of her feet, lingering into one after another whirlpool. Ah! Yiqing Luo let out a painful moan. There seemed to be something in her body, colliding against her limbs and bones. Her meridians were also expanding at this moment. She shut her eyes tightly. The scorching feeling and swelling feeling in her body had already made her consciousness become muddled. Yiqing Luo didn't know that the few people who were standing by the side, who were originally extremely worried, were now looking at her with disbelief and shock. They saw with their own eyes that vermilion bird which was burning in flames, charging towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to counterattack, vermilion bird had already crashed onto Yiqing Luo. Following that, they saw that huge, noble and elegant vermilion bird, merging with Yiqing Luo in a split second. It could totally be considered as directly merging with Yiqing Luo as one. Following that, Yiqing Luo's body gradually floated above the sea of flames. A ball of flames enveloped her entirely. Strong profound qi turned into bursts of energy, encircling the surroundings of the flames, revolving non-stop. This was obviously the rhythm of advancement. Dmo Xian's footsteps, which had already taken a step forward, stopped on the spot. A pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes gazed deeply at the lady in midair. Vermilion bird and Lil Luo signed the contract. He let out a low chuckle. His laughter was filled with doting and joy towards Yiqing Luo. Who would have thought that, the vermilion bird who originally looked down on Yiqing Luo, and had challenged her several times, would choose to sign the contract with Yiqing Luo at this moment? Yiqing Luo's attitude towards Vermilion Bird was absolutely not good. How could a tsundere like Vermilion Bird make such a choice? Almost everyone present felt that Vermilion Bird was about to attack Yiqing Luo. They had not expected Vermilion Bird to sign the contract with Yiqing Luo. Vermilion Bird was one of the 4 sacred beasts. Sign a contract with Vermilion Bird. The Vermilion Bird's power fused with Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart's power. From then on, it caused the energy within Yiqing Luo's body to keep on increasing explosively, attaining the opportunity to advance. Rumble. An earth-shattering thunderous sound fell into everyone's ears clearly. The entire land of the roots started to shake under this shocking thunder. The stones with sparks on the rock wall also fell down piece by piece. Instructor Luo and Instructor Li looked at each other. He could no longer suppress his excitement and excitement. Lightning tribulation. This is a lightning tribulation. Someone is about to advance to the profound sky realm. Heavens. Sky Mystic Supreme, is it student Yiqing Luo? In the Nirvana realm, practitioners above the profound sky realm had already stepped into the ranks of world-shaking experts. However, if a profound practitioner wanted to advance to the sky profound realm, he would have to go through the lightning tribulation. This lightning tribulation was a test that every profound rank cultivator had to endure after reaching the profound sky realm. Once he passed the lightning tribulation, he would be able to successfully advance. Instructor Li and Instructor Luo couldn't hide their shock. Yiqing Luo was just a 15-year-old young lady. She had the divine dragon, contracted with the white tiger sacred beast, and now there was a vermilion bird sacred beast. Even, directly advanced to the profound sky realm. This luck was simply heaven-defying. How could ordinary people live in this world, other than Yiqing Luo, who was so heaven-defying? Chapter 1526. Yiqing Luo couldn't feel anything from the outside world. The scorching and expanding feeling in her body kept washing over her. Gradually, Yiqing Luo sensed a burst of vigorous energy erupting from her profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo was the clearest about this feeling. Not long ago, she had just experienced this feeling. During the battle with the Imperial Palace's granny, she successfully advanced to Earth Profound 9th grade in the nick of time. This feeling was exactly the same as when she was advancing. Was she going to advance again? Yiqing Luo's consciousness gradually recovered. The scene of Vermilion Bird crashing into her appeared in her mind. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She concentrated and sensed. Indeed, in her pet space, she felt Vermilion Bird's presence. Vermilion Bird and her signed a life and death contract. The same contract as Chi. To tell the truth, signing a contract with Vermilion Bird was out of Yiqing Luo's expectations. But it was also considered as unexpected. Everything depended on the relationship between Vermilion Bird and Chi. Even if Vermilion Bird agreed to sign a contract with her for Chi, it would at most be an equal contract. She had not expected Vermilion Bird to use its own soul to forcefully sign a life and death contract with her. Didn't Vermilion Bird especially hate her? If they signed a life and death contract, Vermilion Bird would follow her forever, unable to leave. Vermilion Bird didn't give any reply to her question. The pet space was quiet, there was no sound at all. Yiqing Luo expressed. She really couldn't understand the sacred beast's thoughts. Towards such a willful Vermilion Bird, what else could she say? Ugly woman, what nonsense are you still thinking about? If you fail to advance, this sacred beast shall see how you advance in future. Vermilion Bird's shrill voice was filled with disdain. As though it despised Yiqing Luo for thinking about all sorts of things at this critical juncture, not absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi to coordinate with her advancement. Yiqing Luo stabilized her state of mind. She started to concentrate fully, welcoming the impact of the advancement. The thunder tribulation was still ongoing. Yiqing Luo's aura kept rising. Profound qi rose sharply, extremely turbulent. The crowd were all sighing with emotion. Yiqing Luo's life was really good. Right now, they were in the depths of the blazing flame nest. The thunder tribulation couldn't strike in at all. In other words, Yiqing Luo didn't need to endure the thunder calamity, she just needed to absorb the spiritual qi to advance. Unknowingly, an hour had passed in a flash. Yiqing Luo's entire body surged with a powerful profound qi. A terrifying aura instantly filled the entire heart meridian. This aura hadn't even formed yet. In the next instant, there was nothing left. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly opened wide. Her arms trembled. A wave of qi spread out in the air in the form of invisible ripples. Yiqing Luo felt that her body was extremely relaxed and long. It was as if there was an endless stream of spiritual energy spreading through his meridians. Even his breathing became much smoother and more relaxed. This time round of advancement, Yiqing Luo wasn't like before, jumping a few grades. The 9th grade of the Earth Profound Realm was promoted to the 1st grade of the Sky Profound Realm. Yiqing Luo thought that if she wanted to advance to the Sky Profound grade, she would need at least a few years before she could find this opportunity. Unexpectedly, on the same day, she directly advanced to the Sky Profound Realm. One had to know that there were at least 100 masters in the world who were known as unworldly masters. They would never be able to break through this barrier and step into the Sky Profound Supreme Realm even if they spent their entire lives. Chapter 1527. Little Luo, Seeing Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura gradually stabilized, Dmo Xian immediately went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms. It was extremely gentle, filled with worry and anxiety. His profound energy was roaming around her body. He checked her body to see if she was injured. After confirming that she was unscathed, even the external injuries she had suffered from the Imperial Palace's old granny had completely healed. He heaved a sigh of relief. Ah Xian, I've advanced. Yiqing Luo's tone was filled with surprise. She couldn't believe it herself. She was actually this lucky. This trip to the flame lair was a trip to level up for her. Dmo Xian hugged her delicate body tightly, his voice hoarse, I know. I know. His heart was still unable to calm down. Heavens knew how much willpower he had used to restrain himself from rushing forward and pulling Yiqing Luo into his arms. The moment Vermilion Bird rushed towards Yiqing Luo, for the first time in his life, he felt a suffocating sense of anxiety. Yiqing Luo was enveloped in flames as she fell into the tribulation of advancement. Let out a groan of pain. His heart ached fiercely. But he knew that he couldn't go up at this moment and disturb Yiqing Luo. This was the opportunity for Yiqing Luo to advance to the Sky Profound grade. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He also hoped that Yiqing Luo could gradually mature. To become a powerhouse, one had to experience pain. Yiqing Luo leaned against his chest. She could smell the elegant sandalwood scent on his body. She closed her eyes slightly. Sky Profound Realm, she had finally become a profound practitioner of the Sky Profound Realm. Finally, she was one step closer to Dmo Xian. Student Yiqing Luo. A deep voice sounded out, interrupting the two of them from snuggling together. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyes from Dmo Xian's arms and looked at Gui Wu. Since you've already formed a contract with the Vermilion Bird, let's get the Vermilion Bird to tell us how to leave this place. Gui Wu's expression was cold. The students are still waiting for us. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Now was not the time to stay here. It's not like there aren't any ways to leave, a sharp voice rang beside Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and saw a palm-sized bird standing on her shoulder. He looked at it up close. The phoenix feathers were as red as fire, and there were even red electric currents flowing through them. What way? Yiqing Luo asked. The Vermilion Bird shook its small head. Its scarlet eyes were like two fiery red gems, dazzling and dazzling. Ugly woman, you should know that this place is the underground heart vein of the flame nest. This place concerns the lifeline of the entire flame nest. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand why Vermilion Bird would give her such a nickname. No matter how he looked at it, the word ugly didn't seem to fit her at all. Vermilion Bird paused and looked at her with disdain. Ugly woman, don't look at this holy beast with such ugly eyes. Although this holy beast has a contract with you, this holy beast is not like Little White, who has no bottom line. Ao. Chi retorted with a low growl. Enough. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and knocked on Vermilion Bird's head mercilessly. Tell me the main point. Vermilion Bird was like a little bird, chirping and jumping on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. That pair of wings flapped open and a scorching hot wind blew against Yiqing Luo's face. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo grabbed the Vermilion Bird's tail, hung it upside down and walked directly towards the direction of the Sea of Fire. Since you've signed a contract with me, then treat me as your master. I won't keep any perverse companions by my side. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upward slightly, but her squinted eyes didn't contain any hint of a smile. Since you're so against me, then I shall use my master's identity to announce the first mission. You, Vermilion Bird, forever guard the heart vein until I come again. Yiqing Luo enunciated each word clearly and calmly. As soon as she finished speaking, she spread her fingers. The red bird in her hand fell into the Sea of Fire. Yiqing Luo turned around and walked away suavely. Let's go, let's find the exit. The two instructors looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze, totally unable to react in time. Chapter 1529. Yiqing Luo was too lazy to care about their reactions. She walked to Dmo Xian's side, held his arm and walked towards the direction of the heart vein entrance. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, Yiqing Luo silently counted in her heart. Immediately, when she counted to the 6th step, she raised her eyes and revealed a sly smile. At the same time, a sharp voice behind her spoke quickly. The way to leave the land of the root vein is to cross this Sea of Fire. The exit is at the end of the Sea of Fire. Without this sacred beast's help, none of you will be able to cross this Sea of Fire. Vermilion Bird's small body flew out of the Sea of Fire. Yiqing Luo paused her footsteps, slowly turned her head and looked at Vermilion Bird with a smile. I have more than one sacred beast. If you can cross the Sea of Fire, Chi can too. Moreover, my Xian's war pet is a 9-tailed fox. 9-tailed fox also belonged to the fire attribute. Because of Vermilion Bird, the Sea of Fire would not hurt Chi. And the 9-tailed fox would not be afraid of this level of fire. Vermilion Bird's flapping wings paused slightly. That pair of red beast eyes stared fiercely at Dmo Xian. It thought, as long as it said it, it would be the only opportunity to leave the land of the root vein. If Yiqing Luo wanted to leave, she had to please it. But, this ugly woman. He was really cunning to the extreme. She was exactly the same as that ugly woman 10,000 years ago. Tricking a beast without a word of disagreement. It gritted its teeth and said fiercely, if not for this sacred beast's escort, those flame beasts will absolutely swallow you up, not even leaving bones behind. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and nodded. What you said is very reasonable. All right, I will reluctantly let you escort. Vermilion Bird only felt that there was an unknown flame burning fiercely in its heart. Damn it, Yiqing Luo deliberately waited for it to say this. Damn it. Could it regret? Could it regret that it was so stupid to sign a life and death contract with Yiqing Luo? No matter how it cursed in its heart, Vermilion Bird still suppressed the displeasure in its heart and became a mount. Alright, so be it as a mount. But, why was it carrying a few big men on its back? Instructor Luo, Instructor Li, Ghost Martial Artist, and Zhou Mo, who was holding Kitty Li, were all on Vermilion Bird's back. If there was only Yiqing Luo on his back, then it could only be said that she was his master's mount. But what right did a group of lowly humans have to sit on its noble back? The vermilion bird felt that its dignity as a sacred beast had been trampled underfoot by this group of humans. The vermilion bird expressed that it also had dignity. It could also go berserk. Vermilion bird, I advise you to listen to Master. Long Yunjian, who was carefully carrying Tong Ziqing, was on Chi-Chi's back. It walked to the vermilion bird's side and whispered in beast language. This ugly woman is simply a she-devil. The vermilion bird cried out angrily, she's even more insane than that she-devil from 10,000 years ago. Chi-Chi shook her head. Master is actually very easy to get along with. You will understand Chi-Chi's words after being with Master for a long time. The vermilion bird snorted, I think, I might never be able to understand. Chi-Chi didn't continue persuading it, but only reminded, if you want to stay by Master's side, you'd better listen to Master, otherwise. Chi-Chi can guarantee that your days will be even more miserable than today. This is advice from you, who had been ravaged by the she-devil. The vermilion bird's red eyes were filled with disdain. Chapter 1530. The vermilion bird expressed, can you still have some backbone as a holy beast? Whether vermilion bird was willing or not. In the end, the vermilion bird still carried the few men on her back and rushed above the sea of fire. Chi-Chi carried Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing on her back, as well as the unconscious Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian sat on Little Nine's back as they followed behind. The saint beast was extremely fast. In a short moment, the three beasts had already crossed a large sea of fire. As far as the eye could see. In all directions was a sea of fire that stretched as far as the eye could see. Vermilion bird, let me give you a name. Yiqing Luo sat cross-legged on the back of the nine-tailed fox and stared at the figure of the vermilion bird. I can't call you vermilion bird in front of outsiders. What's wrong with vermilion bird? Those stupid humans have to kneel and beg for mercy when they hear my name. The vermilion bird snorted. It didn't think there was anything wrong with its name. Yiqing Luo directly ignored vermilion bird's words and held her chin. Ah Xian, Chi-Chi is called Chi-Chi, what do you think? It is called Ba Ba, what do you think? Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with adoration, that's great. This holy beast doesn't want to be called Ba Ba. How can such a lame name highlight the majesty of this sacred beast? The vermilion bird immediately cried out. After it finished howling, it recalled that Yiqing Luo didn't bother about it. Then, it continued to roar, even if I die, I won't call myself Ba Ba. If you give this sacred beast this name, this sacred beast will perish together with you. It spun around and stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. The crimson eyes of the beast were wide open. He looked as if he was unafraid of death. It was as if making it call Ba Ba was more serious than taking its life. Yiqing Luo, why did she feel that her naming ability was pretty good? 7788, how simple and crude was that? Chi-Chi nodded, agreeing with her master's point of view. It especially liked the name its master gave it. Chi Yen. A low voice came from not far in front of them. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice and saw Ghost Marshal looking expressionlessly in their direction. Chi Yen? Yiqing Luo murmured these two words. Was this the name that Gui Wu had given the vermilion bird? It was indeed not bad. All right. In the future, vermilion bird's name will be Chi Yen. Yiqing Luo waved her hand and decided on the name vermilion bird, Chi Yen. Aren't you going to thank Master Gui Wu for giving you this name? The word bestowed. It pierced vermilion bird's ears. But thinking of the names, Chi Yen and Ba Ba, it clenched its teeth and chose to abandon its bottom line, abandon its moral integrity, and arrogantly snorted in the direction of the ghost martial artist. This holy beast likes your name very much. This holy beast will reluctantly use this name. Yiqing Luo, she felt that vermilion bird's name should be Chi Aojiao. After the name was decided, Yiqing Luo looked down at the rolling magma and the flaming beast that would pop its head out from time to time and wave its arms. At the base of the fire lair. Wherever there was fire, there would be fire beasts. Those fire beasts were clearly exuding an extremely strong killing intent. It was as if it wanted to charge forward and drag them into the sea of fire, engulfing them completely. If Qi Yan wasn't here, Yiqing Luo believed that these fire beasts would absolutely not be courteous. Qi Yan, those cultivators who headed towards the fire lair were all engulfed by the fire beasts? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she seemed to have thought of something as she opened her mouth to ask. After the imperial tutor's prophecy, large groups of cultivators flocked into the fire lair. But none of them survived. At the base, Yiqing Luo didn't see any bones or any traces of other cultivators. Chapter 1531. This sacred beast hasn't been awake for a long time, but during this period of time when this sacred beast was awake, I indeed sensed quite a number of foolish humans, coming wave after wave to die. Mentioning this matter, Qi Yan's tone turned grave. Those profound practitioners were indeed burned by the flaming beasts to the point where not even their bones were left. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. Their guess was indeed right. The terror of the flame nest wasn't in the flame nest, but in the depths of the flame nest, which was the foundation ground. But how did those cultivators enter the flame nest's foundation ground? Didn't Old Man Sung say? They were sucked into the foundation ground because of the profound qi battle between Zhu Wu Xian and Dmo Xian, which led to the flame nest activating its self-protection mechanism. Those cultivators, how could they activate the flame nest's self-protection mechanism? Those foolish humans, to be able to enter the foundation ground is indeed very strange, and there's another point, which is also very strange. Vermilion Bird said, although the flame beast is the guardian beast of the foundation ground, but before it gets close to the heart vein, the flame beast will absolutely not casually launch an attack. But, after those cultivators entered the foundation ground, the flame beast seemed to have gone mad, swallowing all the cultivators. Yiqing Luo caught the main point. What you mean is, the flame beast's rampage is not so simple? These foolish humans died, this sacred beast doesn't care, so whether it's simple or not, this sacred beast doesn't have a deep understanding. Vermilion Bird spread out its phoenix wings, swaying a stretch of seductive ripples. This sacred beast only knows, after swallowing 3 batches of foolish humans, no one else came again. 3 batches? And in batches? Which meant, the number of people who were swallowed by the flame beast was extremely large. But thinking about it, it made sense. Yiqing Luo had crossed hands with the flame beast, and understood how powerful it was. Especially, that ability which kept on deriving, no matter how strong the person was, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Those cultivators, naturally wouldn't be as lucky as them. Following Qi-Qi's directions, they found the heart vein, and using Qi-Qi's relationship, they obtained Vermilion Bird's protection. Those flame beasts wanted to swallow them, but they feared Vermilion Bird's prestige. This holy beast has another strange matter. Qi Yan turned to look at Yiqing Luo, pointed to her with his sharp mouth, and swept over Dmo Xian, you, and it then looked in Zhu Wuxin's direction. The 3 of you are very strange. What's wrong? Yiqing Luo asked. After they were sucked into the foundation, they were entangled by the flame beasts. Qi Yan swung his colorful phoenix tail and gestured to the group of people on his back. And the flame beast has never entangled you? Instructor Luo immediately nodded. Yes. After we were sucked in, we were entangled by several flame beasts. Fortunately, Master Gui Wu was there. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have been devoured by the flame beasts. Wave after wave of flaming beasts. Now that they thought about it, their scalps still felt numb. Yiqing Luo fell into deep thoughts. After she was sucked into the foundation, she did not encounter any flame beasts. After meeting Zhu Wu Xian, they met Dmo Xian. At the very least, he hadn't encountered any flame beasts in the past few hours. And the appearance of the flame beast, just as they were about to find the heart meridian under Chi-Chi's guidance, all of a sudden, it appeared. Following that, it was wave after wave. And the number kept on increasing. Chapter 1532. These flame beasts are indeed acting strangely today. Qi Yan lowered his head and looked at the magma, constantly waving his arms, as if he wanted to rush up. Ugly woman, what have you done to these flame beasts? Yi Qing Luo still didn't respond to Qi Yan's words. She pondered deeply for a moment and raised her eyes to look at Dmo Xian as she lowered her voice. Ah Xian, could it be? She already had a guess in her heart. Dmo Xian's expression was calm as he nodded. Don't worry, I'm here, don't be afraid. Dmo Xian nodded. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped loudly. South Waves Continent, Flame Nest. It was the Heavenly Dean and the Dark Forces Wolf Saint technique in Yi Qing Jian who had decided to extract all the students' souls here and offer them to the King of Darkness. In other words, coincidentally, the Dean of the General Academy had invited Gue Wu and Zhou Mo to train the students of the various academies. The Heavenly Dean didn't need to think of any excuses. Gue Wu immediately brought the students to the Flame Lair. Wolf Saint Art and Yi Qing Qian had long been prepared to extract the students' souls here. Naturally, he was already prepared. The reason why these flaming beasts were so violent was most likely related to the dark forces. Thinking about it, the profound practitioners of the various great forces who had swarmed into the fire lair must have had their souls extracted by the dark forces with the help of the flame beasts. If that was the case, the dark forces were too cruel. Not only the corpses, but the flaming beasts had also devoured them, leaving nothing behind. Even their souls would become food for the King of Darkness. He thought that this matter might be related to the dark forces. Yi Qing Luo immediately urged Qi Yan to speed up and lead the way. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo were by her side. As for the students, other than the two instructors, there were only the elders from the headquarters. If they encountered the dark forces, they would definitely not be a match for the dark forces. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's expression suddenly congealed. Gue Wu, who had been paying close attention to Yi Qing Luo, his eyes gradually darkened. And the proud Qi Yan, listening to Yi Qing Luo's constant urging, the rebellious thoughts made it deliberately slow down its own speed. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. If not for the fact that Qi Aojiao was carrying the ghost doctor and the rest on her back, she would definitely kick it into the sea of fire. Of course, the reason why Yi Qing Luo was so anxious. It wasn't that she cared about the students from the various academies. She had absolute confidence that if the dark forces really took the opportunity to attack the students, they would not be able to escape. The students of the devil class would definitely think of a way to escape. The reason why she urged Qi Yan to speed up like this. It was because she did not want the dark forces' conspiracy to succeed. Right now, the King of Darkness needed a large number of young men and women's souls as food to unlock the so-called seal. The moment the King of Darkness undid the seal, he would die. The strength of the dark forces would definitely have a qualitative leap. At that time, it wouldn't be as easy to deal with as it was now. The dark forces were obviously very interested in her. He wanted to obtain her profound heart jade by every possible means. He wanted to take her away again. What would happen if the dark forces were allowed to develop? Yi Qing Luo didn't want to find trouble for herself. It was better to do it before trouble came. He wanted to cut off this source of trouble first. Most importantly, Yi Qing Luo had a premonition. Chapter 1533. That King of Darkness who was addressed as King by the dark forces would appear in this world. Otherwise, the dark forces would not take such a huge risk to plan with the Heavenly Academy, to let the various academies' students be buried in the blaze nest. After all, once something happened to the various academies' students, the students' families would definitely investigate thoroughly and would not let it go easily. The dark forces dared to set up such a plan. They would definitely think of a way to retaliate. Then, the only way was to shock them with their abilities. Qi Yi Qing Luo's tone was icy cold as she prepared to threaten them. A deep and cold voice interrupted her before she could say anything. Speed up immediately and leave this place. That voice was thick and powerful. Everyone's gazes converged towards that direction. Even the unconscious Tong Ziqing and Zhu Wu Xian were awakened by that voice. It was Gui Wu. His face was cold and sunken as a pair of malicious eyes were suffused with a biting cold glint. That invisible imposing manner made one's back turn cold as they submitted themselves to him. Even Qi Yan was intimidated by this imposing manner. With a flap of his wings, he subconsciously increased his flying speed. Qi and Little Nine immediately caught up. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent as no one spoke a word. On Qi's back, Tong Ziqing was awoken by Gui Wu's low growl. The minute she opened her eyes, she felt an intense pain all over her body. Her back felt as if there were densely packed ants wriggling incessantly, bringing with it an unbearable piercing pain. She moved as her brows creased tightly. But her hands were unable to move. Tong Ziqing struggled. Don't move. A deep voice rang beside her ear. That voice was so familiar that it made her heart tremble. The pained expression on his face froze in that instant. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. Following that, she opened her eyes. An extremely handsome but expressionless face was reflected in her pupils. Tong Ziqing's eyelashes trembled even more. Her eyes revealed a sliver of astonishment. As though she couldn't believe the person in front of her. You're injured, don't move. Long Yunzhan saw the young lady in his arms staring at him without blinking, as though she was in a daze, so he opened his mouth to explain. Qing Luo has already taken a look for you, bear with it for this period of time and the wound on your back will be healed. But what he said? Tong Ziqing didn't seem to hear it. Her eyes were filled with an infatuated luster as she stared straight at Long Yunzhan. Those azure blue eyes were as clear as ice. But for some reason, she felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. She raised her hand, her fingers trembling, wanting to touch the face that was so close to her. He wanted to make sure that everything before him wasn't a dream. Only in her dreams would Long Yunzhan be by her side. It was only in his dreams that the person reflected in Long Yunzhan's eyes would be her. The moment Tong Ziqing raised her hand, she felt a heart-wrenching pain that made her face twitch in pain. Long Yunzhan immediately stopped her and comforted her in a low voice. Ziqing, I'm here, don't move. After you recover, you can do whatever you want. Her voice was still cold and clear. But Tong Ziqing heard some gentleness. That's right, gentleness. From Long Yunzhan, she could actually see the gentleness that belonged to her. Tong Ziqing shut her eyes as a bitter smile appeared on her lips. This was indeed a dream. How could Long Yunzhan possibly treat her gently? This dream was so real. So real that she knew it was a dream. Chapter 1534. Ziqing. Seeing that she had closed her eyes, Long Yunzhan immediately called out Tong Ziqing's name worriedly. He frowned slightly, thinking that Tong Ziqing had closed her eyes because she couldn't bear the pain from her wounds. After waiting for a long time, Tong Ziqing did not reply. Long Yunzhan immediately hugged her shoulders tightly, and his voice became even softer. Ziqing, where do you feel uncomfortable? Or does the wound hurt badly? That soft whispering voice. Instantly, Tong Ziqing's eyes turned red. When had Long Yunzhan ever spoken in such a gentle voice? Even when facing Yi Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan was still expressionless, calm and indifferent. But at this moment, he was so gentle, he could hear the tension in Long Yunzhan's voice. She could also feel how unnatural the tight muscles of the right arm that was wrapped around her were. Long Yunzhan wasn't used to being gentle. But to her, he tried his best to be gentle. Such gentleness, not only did it not satisfy Tong Ziqing's heart. On the contrary, it made her want to cry. They were not tears of joy. Instead, she herself did not understand the tears. This dream was too real. Unknowingly, Tong Ziqing felt that the corners of her eyes were actually a little wet. Ziqing? Long Yunzhan panicked. The tears at the corner of Tong Ziqing's eyes seeped into his palm. Long Yunzhan, who had never taken care of a lady, instantly stretched out his hand helplessly, as he wiped the corners of Tong Ziqing's eyes. As he opened his mouth dryly, Ziqing, tell me if you're not feeling well, Qing Luo is just beside you, you can, class leader. Tong Ziqing choked with sobs, her voice extremely hoarse. Long Yunzhan immediately stopped speaking. Tong Ziqing moved her lips. Long Yunzhan's figure was vaguely reflected in her tearful eyes. Class leader, don't be so gentle with me, I'm scared. She was already choking on her last few words. Long Yunzhan's body stiffened. His azure blue eyes flickered with a gloomy luster. Tong Ziqing's extremely pale face was like a weeping beauty. No matter how one looked at it, it made one's heart ache. Don't be gentle with her. Is she afraid of his gentleness? Women were really hard to understand. Qing Luo told him to treat Ziqing gently. But Ziqing rejected his gentleness. Long Yunzhan was truly unable to understand Tong Ziqing's thoughts. However, when he saw how Tong Ziqing tried to hold back her tears, she couldn't help but cry. Somewhere in her heart, there was a faint throbbing pain. He slowly loosened his grip and placed Tong Ziqing in Chi-Chi's fur. The moment Tong Ziqing landed on Chi-Chi's back, she shrunk to the side. It seemed like he didn't want to come into contact with Long Yunzhan at all. Long Yunzhan's outstretched hand froze in midair. Looking at that delicate body that was trembling uncontrollably. In the end, he withdrew his hand and sat to the side, quietly watching Tong Ziqing. His mind was filled with countless thoughts. Tong Ziqing sobbed silently. Tears soaked Chi-Chi's fur and stuck to her face. She didn't know why she was crying. He also didn't understand why he had to avoid Long Yunzhan. She clearly begged Long Yunzhan to get close to her. He clearly wanted to get Long Yunzhan's attention. However, when Long Yunzhan's gentleness towards her made her realize that everything was not a dream, his heart sank into a state of anxiety and unease. She blocked a move for Long Yunzhan and was almost engulfed by the flames, turning into ashes. It wasn't because she wanted to exchange for Long Yunzhan's sympathy. Chapter 1535. If it was only because of this that Long Yunzhan felt guilty towards her, she would rather not have this gentleness. Long Yunzhan continued to treat her gently. She was afraid that she would get used to this gentleness and sink into it. At that time, he would never be able to extricate himself. There were no more words between the two of them. Zhu Wuxin, who was lying behind Chi-Chi, looked coldly at the two people in front of him. In his heart, he snorted disdainfully at the relationship between the two. The woman clearly loved the man. However, she had no choice but to push the man away. And the man clearly cared about the woman. However, he didn't say anything to comfort her for a long time and really left the woman. Even he, who had never cared about the affairs between men and women, knew. A woman's words usually didn't match her heart. Tell him not to be so gentle. The subtext was for him to be more gentle. Zhu Wuxin was extremely disdainful of such feelings. In his opinion, since you like someone, that person must belong to him. He wanted him to see the woman he loved deeply with another man. He could not be that magnanimous. Not to mention, she was bashful and didn't even dare to say that she liked him. Even dare not say the love. Is it really love? Zhu Wuxian gave a cold laugh, as he immediately turned his vision towards one side, towards Qing Luo, who was sitting on the back of the nine-tailed fox, snuggling up to Dmo Xian. The cold light in his eyes was faintly discernible. We're here. With a clear cry, the scarlet flaming wings brought a gust of strong wind. Soon after, everyone felt a scorching wave of air pressing down on their faces. We're out. Zhou Mo carried Kitty Li and jumped down from Scarlet Flame's back. He glanced around the room. This was the place where they had been sucked into the Foundation grounds. It was that piece of land which had been turned into ruins by Yiqing Luo and Imperial Palace's granny, as well as Zhu Wu Xian and Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo and the others came down from the sacred beast's back. When everyone was standing on the ground, Shi and Dmo Xian then kept their respective sacred beasts properly. Let's return to the outer perimeter first. After Gui Wu said those words, his figure flashed as he hurriedly rushed back in the direction he had come from. His pace was extremely fast, and the expression on his face was serious. Clearly, Gui Wu had also sensed the danger. Hey, oh, wait for me. Before Zhou Mo could finish his words, Gui Wu's figure had already disappeared from everyone's sight. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue and muttered to himself, he's so impatient again. Only I can stand his character. Then, he lowered his eyes. His almond-shaped eyes were glowing as he stared at the person in his arms. His slender fingers hooked around her chin. Little wild cat, this young master will go take a look at Ao's condition first. After that, this young master will personally train you. Bah! Frivolous man, hurry up and let go of Kitty. Kitty won't train with you. Kitty Lee gritted her teeth and glared at him angrily. This time, Zhou Mo didn't act the same as before. She took the opportunity to attack Kitty Lee. He took the opportunity to tease Kitty Lee. He really put Kitty Lee on the ground. You! Kitty Lee stared at Zhou Mo in astonishment. She couldn't believe that this frivolous man would really let go of her. Only, her astonishment didn't last for more than a few breaths. In the eyes that were like the vast sea of stars, the extremely devilish face suddenly enlarged. Following that, Zhou Mo's warm thin lips landed in between Kitty Lee's brows. That touch was extremely soft and warm. As though this kiss had fallen right into her heart. Kitty Lee's heart suddenly pounded. Before she could react, the figure in front of her had already disappeared. Chapter 1536. Kitty Lee stood there in a daze. She could still vaguely hear Zhou Mo's whisper in her ear. He said, when the training starts, the kisses won't stop here. Her cheeks were inexplicably dyed red. It was as if she was on fire, making her extremely shy. By the time she regained her senses, Kitty Lee saw Yiqing Luo and Yan Xiaoyi's mischievous smiles. Kitty Lee stomped her feet angrily. That frivolous man, he actually flirted with Kitty again. Kitty must bite him to death. This chop caused Kitty Lee to be stunned once again. The injuries she had suffered at the hands of the Imperial Palace's old granny had completely healed. If she was still in the Foundation land, it would be difficult for her to even stand. Therefore, whether it was fighting against the flaming beasts or walking on foot, Zhou Mo continued to hold her in his arms. But now, she just kept stomping her feet. He did not feel any pain coming from his body. He circulated his Xian Qi in his body. His external and internal injuries were indeed completely healed. Was it Zhou Mo? The expression on Kitty Lee's face was rather complicated. Let's rush back to the wooden shed to take a look at the situation. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to bother about what happened between Li Mao and Zhou Mo. From Zhou Mo's attitude, Yiqing Luo didn't feel any bit of malicious intent. As the princess of the Cat Beast clan, Kitty Lee's perception was the strongest. Although she said that she disliked Zhou Mo very much, but if she really felt Zhou Mo's malice, with Kitty Lee's fierce nature, she would definitely not let Zhou Mo do anything to her, even if it meant perishing together. Right now, the most important thing was to get back to the wooden shed. He wanted to see if the students had been taken advantage of by the dark forces. The group of people immediately followed the path they came from and hurriedly rushed back. Not far from the wooden shed, there was an open space that could hold about 5,000 people. More than 1,000 students were undergoing excruciating torture. They had already run 5 laps around this place. He ran until he was out of breath. Instructor Ren and Instructor Fong did not give them any time to rest. Then, he arranged the next squat training, followed by a set of physical training. There were 5 types of physical training. After the training of these 5 categories, Li Tianlan was stunned. Only then could he enter the stage of qi training. These students were suffering unspeakably. There were already quite a number of students who lost their ability to move after running 5 laps and directly fainted. Some students were already out of breath and fell to the ground when they reached the second segment of squats. There were also students who had an advantage and managed to reach the 4th category. Of the students who managed to achieve the 4th category, at least 20 of them were students from the devil class, mixed with a few students from other academies. Zi Qianqian, who was still in the 2nd category, panted heavily. She kept squatting and standing up, their hearts were on the brink of collapse. Yi Qing Luo, that slut. We are suffering here, but she ran away. Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth in anger. Su Xiaolian was standing by the side, as she was so tired that her forehead was filled with sweat. Goddess Qian, Master Gui Wu and Instructor Zhou have personally gone to catch that slut Yi Qing Luo. When they return, that slut's reputation will definitely be swept clean. Zi Qianqian's face turned gloomy as he thought of how carefree and unfettered Yi Qing Luo might be right now. The jealousy and hatred in his heart grew. Chapter 1537. Su Xiaolian's expression stiffened slightly as she pursed her lips in grievance. Goddess Qianqian, I am. She had obviously followed Zi Qianqian's instructions. This did not achieve the desired effect. How could she be blamed for this? But after meeting Zi Qianqian's cold eyes, Su Xiaolian cleverly kept her mouth shut. She turned and pleaded in a low voice, "It's my fault. Goddess Qianqian, it's all my fault, I'm useless. Please don't be angry with me." She was now on Zi Qianqian's side. Several actions had provoked public anger. The other students of the Heavenly Academy wanted to skin her alive the moment they saw her. The only person Su Xiaolian could rely on now was Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian snorted coldly as her willowy eyebrows knitted tightly together. She turned her head away as if she didn't want to pay attention to Su Xiaolian. Su Xiaolian was flustered. After a few rounds of pleading, Zi Qianqian's expression still did not ease. She bit her lower lip as if she had made a difficult decision. Goddess Qianqian, if you really want that slut's life, I have a way. Zi Qianqian glanced at her disdainfully. What way do you have? Come with me to see someone. Su Xiaolian clenched her fist as if she thought of that person, and her delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Zi Qianqian didn't notice Su Xiaolian's abnormality. But when he heard her say this, his tone was obviously a lot more dignified. Zi Qianqian raised her brows. Who can help me take that slut's life? You will know when you get there. Su Xiaolian saw Zi Qianqian's interest and immediately persuaded. Goddess Qianqian, I will not let you down again. Looking at Su Xiaolian's firm eyes and her pleading look, Zi Qianqian pondered suspiciously. If Su Xiaolian had someone she could rely on, how could he possibly be entangled around her? But looking at Su Xiaolian's expression, it didn't seem like she was lying. Could it be, Su Xiaolian really had a way to find someone to take Yi Qing Luo's life? If she was able to kill Yi Qing Luo and not suspect her, it wasn't impossible for him to meet the person that Su Xiaolian was talking about. In any case, Su Xiaolian didn't have the guts to scheme against her. Thinking of this, Zi Qianqian squinted her cold and arrogant beautiful eyes and snorted lightly. I will give you one more chance. If this time, you are still unable to take Yi Qing Luo's life, you know the consequences. Yes. Su Xiaolian nodded vigorously and excitedly replied, yes, several times. Suddenly, an extremely noisy voice came from the crowd. Immediately after, the two instructors called out in joy, Master Gui Wu. Ghost Martial Master. Had Gui Wu and the others returned? Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian immediately turned their gazes towards Gui Wu. Sure enough, an extremely cold and indifferent young man in a black robe appeared before everyone's eyes. That pair of cold, piercing eyes revealed a light that was extremely inconsistent with that face. Sweeping his gaze across the students present, Gue Wu asked in an indifferent voice, "Did anything happen?" Replying to Master, "Everything is normal and there is no danger." Instructor Ren raised his smiling face as he reported respectfully. Gue Wu nodded his head and immediately turned around. Placing his hands behind his back, he didn't say another word and left the empty space. Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan exchanged glances. The two of them didn't see Yi Qing Luo's figure beside Gue Wu. Could it be? Chapter 1538. Before long, Zhou Mo's figure flew over in a hurry. He paused for a moment, looked around, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had known Gue Wu for nearly 2 years. He more or less had some understanding of the ghost warrior's temperament. When they were still in the sky above the Sea of Fire, Gue Wu saw Yi Qing Luo's grave expression and immediately changed his expression, forcing Qi Yan to speed up. He immediately understood Gue Wu's thoughts. Something might have happened to these students. On the surface, Gue Wu did not have any good feelings towards the students from the various academies. However, deep in his heart, he still cared about these students. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given up on his most beloved cultivation and spent all his time training these students. Fortunately, these students were all fine. Zhou Mo heaved a long sigh of relief. "Old Ren, where's Ah Wu?" Instructor Ren shook his head. "Master Gue Wu stood here for a while before leaving. Thank you for your hard work." After saying this, Zhou Mo's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. The two instructors looked at each other. They really did not understand what was going on with these two great Buddhas coming one after the other. Could it be, student Yi Qing Luo had already been murdered? This thought made the two instructors' hearts tremble. Towards this classmate of Yi Qing Luo, they rather admired her. After all, after so many years of being an instructor, he had never met a student like Yi Qing Luo. If such an outstanding student were to really be harmed in the flame nest, what a pity. The two instructors looked at each other and shook their heads regretfully. With a sigh, they separated. Not far away, Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan, who were drenched in sweat and had no strength left in their bodies, had been paying close attention to the two instructors' expressions. After seeing the regretful expressions on the two's faces, Zi Qianqian's eyes lit up. Looks like Master Gue Wu and Instructor Zhou didn't manage to get that slut Yi Qing Luo back. That seems to be the case. Su Xiaoyan couldn't laugh anymore. If Yi Qing Luo wasn't found. Which meant that something had happened to Yi Qing Luo. In other words, Zi Qianqian no longer needed to make use of her. Moreover, the temptation and fawning that she had tossed to Zi Qianqian just now were no longer there. The flame lair is such a dangerous place. No matter how powerful that bitch is, it's impossible for her to return alive. Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth as he spoke, his eyes shooting out a cold killing intent. It would be best if those two trash from devil class who went to look for the little slut also died outside. Su Xiaoyan carefully echoed from the side. But the smile on his face was so forced. Zi Qianqian also noticed Su Xiaoyan's expression after gritting his teeth. Then, the corners of her mouth curled into a beautiful but cold smile. Student Su, since the little b asterisk tch is dead, I think, our cooperation should end here. Goddess Qianqian, Su Xiaoyan raised her head in astonishment. She hadn't expected that Zi Qianqian would burn the bridge so quickly. Zi Qianqian wiped the sweat off his forehead. Her overly long bangs stuck to her face, but it made her face, which was full of smiles, look a little flirtatious. That pair of beautiful eyes flashed with a profound meaning. Su Xiaoyan's heart tightened. A sense of danger spread in his heart. Zi Qianqian had developed killing intent towards her. That's right. Zi Qianqian had always been noble and elegant in front of others, as cold and elegant as a fairy who had left the secular world. But she had been following beside Zi Qianqian and knew his real face. Chapter 1539. Whereas on the other side, Devil class and other students also sensed that something was amiss as all of their faces revealed an anxious and uneasy expression. They had already completed the 5 rounds of physical training. It was resting time now. They pestered the 2 instructors to inquire about Yi Qing Luo and Long Yunzhan's situation. How would the 2 instructors know about the situation? But from Gue Wu and Zhou Mo earlier, they saw their complicated expressions. Deep in their hearts, they thought that Yi Qing Luo should have met with danger. Facing these students' bombardment of questioning, they were more or less in a dilemma of how to open their mouths. This bit of hesitation made Devil class's students even more worried. When Zi Qianqian saw this situation, the smile on his face grew brighter. The exhaustion from physical training was swept away at this moment. Just at this moment. Not too far away, there was a commotion. It seemed like someone was arguing about something. Following that, they saw a group of people walking on the wind not too far away from the open space. Right at the front was a man and a lady. The man was peerless, like a celestial being. The lady was devastatingly beautiful, like a fairy. The 2 of them walked hand in hand, like a beautiful painting. When the lady's face was completely revealed, the students from various academies immediately recognized her. Student Yi Qing Luo. It's student Yi Qing Luo. The students looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Not knowing why, that young lady who was covered in blood was obviously in a sorry state. But at this moment, there was a sense of majesty which made one unable to look straight at her. That kind of invisible imposing manner. It made one subconsciously want to submit to her. What was going on? Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner was indeed very strong. But she didn't seem to be that strong. When everyone's vision fell onto the man beside Yi Qing Luo, who had the same outstanding temperament, their hearts suddenly started to tremble uncontrollably. Purple robe, peerless style. Wasn't this the legendary overlord? Most of the students present knew about this. Yi Qing Luo and the rumored overlord had a close relationship. They had not expected that they would actually meet the overlord here. The students were extremely shocked. Some of them kept denying Dmo Xian's identity in their hearts. Someone who looks good in purple might not be the overlord. That's right. His Majesty is very busy every day. How could he have time to come to such a place? I heard that the overlord has been dealing with the war between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Forces recently. This person is definitely not the overlord. However, in the next instant, the 2 instructors recovered from the shock and immediately walked forward, cupping their fists respectfully. Master Di Zun. They were instructors under the ghost martial artist. He had been training students in various academies all year round. Naturally, she was fortunate enough to have seen Dmo Xian's face. Dmo Xian took a look at the 2 instructors and his thin lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. The both of you must be little Luo's instructors. I'll have to trouble the both of you to take care of little Luo. The 2 instructors were stunned. At the same time, he took a glance at Yi Qing Luo who was standing beside Dmo Xian. He immediately understood and quickly put on a smiling face. Overlord is too polite. Student Yi Qing Luo is a rare talent. We are just fulfilling our duty as instructors. This scene shocked the students. The students who were still doing physical training fell to the ground one by one. Oh my God! Did they hear wrongly? The overlord actually smiled at the 2 instructors because of Yi Qing Luo? And he smiled in such a melancholic manner that made one's heart palpitate. Where was the cold and aloof overlord? Where was the cold and unfeeling overlord? Chapter 1540. Rumors were indeed untrustworthy. While they were chatting, Instructor Luo and Instructor Li walked over one after another. On Instructor Luo's back, there was a man who seemed to be seriously injured. In Long Yunzhan's arms was a woman. The group of people came back. Not a single person was missing. Everyone had returned. What's going on? Instructor Ren went up to Instructor Luo. When he saw the face of the man on his back, his face turned pale. This is young Master Zhu. Instructor Luo nodded. Bring young Master Zhu to the wooden shed first and treat his wounds. As he spoke, he was about to walk towards the wooden shed. Instructor Luo, there's no need. DMO Xian calmly said, I still have some matters to attend to and will be leaving soon. Leave this young Master Zhu to me. Instructor Luo stopped in his tracks. He had been following them all the way. How could they not see the open strife and veiled struggle between DMO Xian and Zhu Wu Exan? Chu Wuxin and DMO Xian were obviously love rivals. If he handed Zhu Wu Exan over to DMO Xian. If anything happened to Zhu Wu Exan, Death God Castle and the power behind Zhu Wu Exan would not let them off. However, if he didn't hand it over, he would be defying the D Zun's orders. It was hard to get off the tiger. Don't worry, Instructor Luo. I'm not interested in him at all. DMO Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he shot a glance at Zhu Wu Exan with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Since this lord is unable to accompany Lil Luo, to train, then Chu Wu Exan absolutely cannot stay here. Instructor Luo, why do I suddenly feel like the overlord's jealousy was so childish? Was this an illusion? Instructor Luo, don't worry, Xian knows what he's doing. Yiqing Luo naturally guessed what Instructor Luo was concerned about as she opened her mouth and spoke in a warm voice. Hand Zhu Wu Exan over to Xian. Xian will bring Zhu Wu Exan to Death God Castle's people. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had already opened her mouth, Instructor Luo hesitated for a moment but still passed Zhu Wu Exan to DMO Xian. Yiqing Luo urged them to take a look at Tong Ziqing's wound. Then, he sent this group of people away. The students of Devil class immediately rushed forward. Slowly, only Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian were left. Of course, this also included Zhu Wuxin, who was lying on the side, as well as the surrounding students who were staring at them dumbfoundedly. I'm leaving. DMO Xian stared at Yiqing Luo's face with an infatuated gaze. Yiqing Luo replied with a soft N. If he hadn't been sucked into the foundation of the fire lair, he would have died. DMO Xian had probably returned to the imperial palace. But because of her, he had stayed for such a long time. He was afraid that the imperial palace was already in chaos. Yiqing Luo could not bear for DMO Xian to leave her. However, he had no choice but to do so. After I'm done, I'll stay with you and watch you grow. DMO Xian stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace as he gently kissed her on the head. Lil Luo, today's matter, I will absolutely not allow it to happen again. If I find out that you're trying to be brave again, I will use my own method. To imprison you by my side forever. The elegant sandalwood scent on him made Yiqing Luo slightly intoxicated. She replied with a soft N as her arms wrapped tightly around his firm waist. Raising her eyes, she met with that pair of vibrant peach blossom eyes. Her charming eyes curved. Xian, I'll wait for you. DMO Xian's eyes flashed. He bent over and kissed Yiqing Luo's pink lips fiercely. Chapter 1541. He didn't care about the gazes around him at all. Or perhaps, DMO Xian did it on purpose. In front of the various academy's students, he intentionally acted intimately with Yiqing Luo. It was to announce to the various academy's students that Yiqing Luo was his, DMO Xian's woman. Yiqing Luo had already been labeled as his exclusive DMO Xian. This not only stopped the other men from having other thoughts towards Yiqing Luo. It also intimidated those students not to attempt to do anything to Yiqing Luo. This kiss didn't last as long as usual. Perhaps it was because she was so infatuated with him in front of everyone. Yiqing Luo felt her entire body turning soft as her body started to heat up slightly. If not for DMO Xian's embrace around her waist, She might not even be able to stand properly. Ah, Xian. Yi Qing Luo glared at him resentfully. This stare made the glint in Dmo Xian's eyes dimmer and dimmer. It was like a whirlpool. Something was constantly surging and spinning. Dmo Xian's throat moved as he swallowed. She would never know how alluring she was right now. Because of that kiss, her cheeks were dyed red, revealing traces of enchanting charm. Her pink lips were slightly red and swollen, glistening with a suggestive sheen. This glare. How was that glaring? It was clearly a hint of coquettishness and flirtatious eyes. I'll leave first. When you miss me, don't forget to speak to me through the profound phoenix ring. Dmo Xian felt that if he stayed any longer, he might not be able to control himself. His words had just ended, without waiting for Yi Qing Luo's response. Dmo Xian's figure had already disappeared before their eyes, blending into the air. Yi Qing Luo's outstretched hand froze in midair. She took a few steps forward. Then, he stopped where he was. The slender hand in midair gradually curled up its fingers one by one. Then, he returned it to his chest. The expression on her face was still as calm as ever. But there was a glimmer in her charming eyes. It clearly revealed the reluctance in her heart. Qing Luo, Zi Qing's wound seems to have split open. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's shout came from behind. Yi Qing Luo readjusted her emotions as she turned around and walked towards Long Yunzhan's direction. The moment she turned around, Long Yunzhan lowered his eyes. His azure blue eyes were filled with unnaturalness. His eyes met Tong Ziqing's beautiful eyes. He was startled and looked away in panic. Therefore, he did not see the pain flowing in Tong Ziqing's eyes and the tears of self-mockery. As expected, rejecting his gentleness was the right choice. In Long Yunzhan's heart, there was only Yi Qing Luo right from the start. Her wound did not split open. Long Yunzhan wasn't willing to see Yi Qing Luo's reluctance towards Dmo Xian, hence he used this excuse to divert Yi Qing Luo's attention. Tong Ziqing closed her eyes. A crystal-clear tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. She endured the dull pain in her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she had already recovered her usual cold and arrogant demeanor. By the time Yi Qing Luo walked to his side, she suddenly struggled a little in Long Yunzhan's arms. Then, a tearing pain came from the burning wound on his back. Her face turned pale as she looked at Yi Qing Luo. Qing Luo, I'm in so much pain. Yi Qing Luo hurried over. Let's go to the wooden shed first, the others prepare clean water. Saying that, she dragged Long Yunzhan as she hurriedly rushed towards the direction of the wooden shed. Long Yunzhan followed behind as he staggered a little. His expression was complicated as he looked at the person in his arms. He felt a warm sticky feeling coming from his palm. His body suddenly froze. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.